Vortex is primarily a student writing magazine. It accepts work only from students. In the early days, it was just students from the Winchester creative writing program. Then we widened it so that it was students across the Winchester University. And then 3 or 4 years ago, we decided, at the suggestion of students and tutors, that we would accept work from students studying creative writing at any university in the UK. We publish poetry, we publish prose, we publish script. We're happy to accept non-fiction. Students have certain ways of submitting the work. They can only submit up to 4 poems, they can only submit up to 2,500 words of prose. And then there's an edition per year, so there's every year's best work that we receive. So there's a 2009 edition, 2010 edition, 2011, and we're working on the 2013 at the moment. And the idea is to give a snapshot of all the best student work that we've received across a particular academic year. Yeah, we've got an editorial board of 6 tutors, and everybody reads everything. Oh, no, that's not quite true. All the poets read all the poetry, and all the fiction writers or prose writers read all the prose. And we've got some dramatists on board as well. And so every piece of work is read by at least 4 people, and everyone gives feedback and comment, and then and rank. They give a top 10, and then all the feedback and all the rank lists come back to me, and then I work out where that places everything. So it's there's a sort of consensual element to it. There's no moment where I just say, oh well, I don't agree with you, I'm putting it in because I'm the editor. Things are ranked on the basis of a variety of people's comments, and then things rise to the top. In almost every case, things that are ranked well by one person are ranked well by others as well. It's very rare that you have someone who thinks this is their favourite piece of work and everyone else hates it. That doesn't happen at all. So eventually I'll arrive at a ranked list of all the work, and then I have to make a calculation as to how many pages we've got and how long, because obviously a one-page poem, we can fit lots of one-page poems, we can't fit lots of 2,000-word pieces of prose. So that I then have to make a judgment as to how much work we've got and how much will fit in, and then I guess what that means is that some editions may have, I don't know, 12 pieces of work in them, some may have 8, some potentially could have 15 if you've got a poetry heavy volume. It varies, but one thing that's guaranteed every year is that the best pieces of work enter step. The creative writing programme is based around the idea that every piece of creative work a student does is accompanied by a critical reflection of their own on it. And so they talk about the process, they talk about the influences, they talk about how the work came to be, the inspiration, the catalysts to that. So the original idea was that there would be some kind of accompaniment, not written by the student, but by someone else, that would introduce it or say what the reader liked about it. That wasn't sustainable in the longer term. It was very time consuming for the readers involved, not just to respond on the basis of a few lines, but actually to have an extended response, and it took much longer to collate the edition. So although that happened in the early days, and I quite like the idea, in a practical sense it wasn't sustainable. And what it also meant was less student work got in the magazine, and there was more sort of tutorly reflection, and I think students are more interested in reading stuff they've written rather than reading something their tutors told them to read. I think if the work was rubbish, it wouldn't stand. The production values, again, the full colour business, I think makes it stand out. I think ultimately it has to be the work that makes it stand or fall, and also I guess it's the best work each year from probably the biggest creative writing programme in the country. If not the biggest, it's in terms of pure numbers, it's in the top 2 or 3, if not the very biggest. And obviously at the moment it's the #1 programme in terms of the National Student Survey. So it's not just the best work of anywhere, it's the best work of, at the moment, according to students, the best course. So I think there's a kind of esteem thing attached with that, and to have your work in the best work anthology of the best course is a significant deal. I made a decision early on that I wasn't going to have a sense of, I wanted to represent all genres, so that you ended up with weak poetry going in just because you'd insisted that there has to be. I don't think that's in anyone's interest at all, because, and also students are intelligent and canny, and they'd realise potentially that maybe less people would submit poetry, and so they might think, oh, I've got a better chance of getting in if it's poetry because I'll be up against less people. I don't want any of that to be part of their consideration. So if, for example, the best 5 pieces of work were 2,000 words of prose each time, that's what would be in it, and it would have 5 pieces in it rather than 15 poems, 20 poems. When I put together my lists, I base it on everyone else except me, because it's a human nature to think if there's a tight call between one piece and another, that I'd go for the one that I really favoured. So I try and make the judgment based on what the editorial board think as opposed to me. I will make a judgment if it seems absolutely impossible to separate 2 pieces of work and one has to go in and the other one can't. Ultimately, I'll be the final arbiter, but that hasn't happened yet. So yeah, the audience is varied. Obviously, students themselves at Winchester are very interested, but copies also go to all other universities in the UK, so everyone else is able to read it. Hence, I guess more people being interested from other universities to submit work. But also, we have lots of events on campus. We have a Winchester reading series, which has writers and agents and publishers that come along, and they all get copies as well. And at our recent MA event, there were writers and agents there, and agents and publishers giving out their business cards and wanting to get in touch with students, both MA and undergraduate. And part of the information they get is Vortex, and there's an MA publication called Litmus, which is for solely MA work, extended MA work. It's sort of part of the package, and so lots of copies are going around the country in lots of guises. And as I say, in addition, prospective applicants to the course and the courses get copies and their families to take away, and I guess again as a sort of symbol of the fact that we take what we're doing seriously and take what they might be doing seriously as well. One thing I've learned is that if you're working in the creative area, and creative writing is a good example, people take their work very personally and very seriously. They want it to be taken seriously. They take it very badly if you don't like it. They take it very badly if they get bad marks. But they take almost ultimate satisfaction from recognition. And I've seen people was bowled over just by a vague letter of interest from a publisher, not even a contract. It's a big deal. So I think saying that your work is in the best dozen of 100 pieces submitted is a big deal. Submitting creative work to an external audience it takes courage. First year students spend most of their time on the course getting used to having their work judged, because you're putting yourself on the line, and not just in the way that you might for an essay, but there's a personal investment in a piece of creative writing that's slightly different, and so you're at least I know from a writing point of view, writers feel personally judged, not just judged in terms of their work. So Vortex allows them to kind of gently put their foot into the warm water and to see how it feels. Once they've done that, it doesn't feel quite so bad, because one of the things we don't do in terms of feedback from Vortex is we don't send anything unpleasant or dismissive necessarily. If students want feedback or writers want feedback, they will get some feedback, and we try and be constructive. Well, obviously in the world outside you won't get anything at all, you'll just be ignored. So we try and lower people gently into the water so that they can then go and submit work elsewhere, and I think that's a nice thing. I like that.